Hey everyone, this is Adila. My name is Adila of Brodie's Love Enterprise. Our DBA is Brodie's Love. I am from New York originally, but I am here now in Louisiana, New Orleans. Our warehouse is in Kenner, Louisiana. We are the first Black female owned Chilean wine company here in New Orleans, as well as the United States. But we didn't start off with wine. But as we talk with Jeremiah, you will see where we started from and where we are. But I'm so glad to be here. Hey, Jeremiah.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it is. I think we talked before about how there's no clear map in business on where you start and where you end up. So I'm
That's
Jeremiah
right.
Landi. I started my business about 10 years ago. So I run an engineering firm. We help commercialize and productize products. Been around, like I said, 10 years. We're in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Denver, and Chicago. I'm in Chicago now, actually, funny enough. And so what really drove me to start my business is that when I worked prior for a lot of different other firms, what I realized is that a lot of times people would just make products, but then not really work with customers to help them understand really like what is commercialization, what is manufacturing, and very topical today about, supply chain turbulence. I think we just had a blackout right prior to this. And so I think
Yeah.
with all that said, I think Adalia, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with kind of where you guys started, where you ended up, or where do you want to
Yeah.
go?
We can start with that because it coincides with understanding the supply chain vulnerabilities. So our company, when we were in New York, I was cupcakes first, and then when I married my then husband, um, we infused his love for liquid treats and my love for tasty sweets, and we started a cupcake and cognac business. Then we moved to New Orleans, and during the pandemic, which is a global disruption, and also natural disasters, where we are going through one right now as we speak, and we just had a blackout. So the global disruptions, that's the natural disasters, political unrest, labor strikes, pandemics, and how it affects our import. So during the pandemic, I got COVID twice. The second time, I almost died. I couldn't walk. I couldn't breathe. They had me on. They had me on the machine in my house. I was secluded from my then husband and my daughter and our grandchildren, and New Orleans shut down. Where the other states, the United States, I think people were open after 3 months, after 6 months, but New Orleans shut down for almost 3 years. And being in the wine industry, food and beverage industry, uh, New Orleans is hospitality. So when everything shuts down, what do you do? So during that time, we stopped. I waited. I prayed. I asked God, like, okay, where are we supposed to go? What are we doing? And that's when God told me, um, do wine. And I was like, wine? I was like, I've never done wine in my life. I was like, well, you're going to have to lead me. You're going to have to guide me. You're going to have to direct me. And I had to be quiet and be still. And that's what I was doing while I was rehabilitating. So we moved to Georgia. And when you move your business from one state to another, credentials come with that. You have to change your permits, your licenses. So in the middle of us moving um, from cupcakes and cognac to wine, I had to start putting things in place. So I became an importer, a wine importer. I started getting my certifications that God told me to get, my DBE, my ACDBE, and those are all certifications so you can be in the airports. I started
Yep.
getting um, every certification that you can name. I started applying for them. And while I was applying for them, we were moving to Georgia. So in Georgia, that's when we received our first uh, let me back up. In Georgia, that is when, between New Orleans and Georgia, that is when the Chilean wine company called us. And that's when we started talking about it and talking about becoming a wine company. But having these vulnerabilities, you have to know what you need to do in advance. And if something happens, like just now with a blackout, how do we get back up and running? Do you have something in place? Do you have these tools put in place so that your business can continue? And if it does delay, how long is that delay? So that's some vulnerability.
Oh yeah, I think to your point, I think a lot of businesses don't do contingency planning well, so they don't do a lot of like, hey, well, what if happens? And then I also like how you mentioned God, right? Not to be overly religious or zealous on this, but I think that one of the things that you told me a while ago was that we need to have faith that things are going to work out, but at the same time, it's all about the work that we put in, right? And it's about the amount of effort, about the planning, because we plan for as much as we can. But, you know, like the blackout before this, you can't plan for everything. So it's really a risk mitigation, you know, to understand like, hey, if my business goes down, how does it go down? And I think it's also one of the things we talked about is when you shifted, you know, your location, a lot of your business didn't change because you really did a lot of the legwork to make sure that the brand had the existing support it needed, logistics and everything were already set up so that your vendors were more agnostic, which I think a lot of people don't really think of. Like I see a lot of, especially like food-based brands, right? They build a very local presence. And then when you move, it's that huge, you know, disruption. Can we talk a little bit? I know that you guys got the Super Bowl. Can we talk a little bit about how that potentially affected your logistics or your supply up and kind of how that changed, or if it changed at all, your thought process?
Oh yeah, of course. So as you were talking about not being in the box, right? Not being just local. When we started this, I never wanted to just be a New Orleans company or a New York company. I wanted to be a global company. I wanted to be what is coffee, what Starbucks is to coffee. I wanted Brodie's love to be to wine. So I started, I've always been a visionary, my mother said. I've always like looked ahead. I've always said, she's like, how do you think about that? I'm like, I don't know. It just like came to me, but I know that is downloaded, you know, by God, because everyone has a destiny. God has a destiny for everyone. So I was like, okay, what is mine? And there are a lot of people that want to be that are local, and it's okay. But I did not want to do that. So when he told me to get all the credentials, and I started listening to him and started following the instructions and directions. And this is what led to the Super Bowl. So when we started getting all of the certifications, I started putting it in the file, like he told me. So I had everything in the file. I had all of the credentials in the file. I had our resumes in the file. I had everything that, and I had no clue why he was telling me that, none whatsoever. So last year, and just to preface this, our wine really started in 2023. We started this business in 2019, but the wine company itself started in 2023. So when the Super Bowl committee came around and they emailed everyone, I have no clue how they got my information. They sent us an email saying, "Do you want to come to the session, the info session?" So we filled it out, and that wasn't even a guarantee that you were picked, that you were chosen to go to the session. So we were chosen. I went to the first session, and before I got there, God told me to take my bottles of wine with me. He was like, take both. He was like, take your brand with you. And I was like, take the wine with me. I was like, this is an information session.
It was like, one of two ways. Either he was telling you it was going to go really good, or that you're going to need a lot of alcohol.
I was going to need the bottle of wine afterwards. So I said, listen, okay. I said, what do I have to lose? So when I went to the information session, I sat, one of my girlfriends called me up because I was in the fourth row. There was seats in the front, so I went to the front. They spoke about it, and as Kim Boyer was talking, she was the chair. They got to the point of the requirements, and she said, in order to apply for the Super Bowl source program, These are the credentials that are required, not optional, that are required. And Jeremiah, as soon as it popped up in the screen, I could have screamed because I was like, oh my God. I was like, I have all of the credentials. And my girlfriend is sitting next to me and she was like, oh man, I don't have that one. I need to get that one. And she looked, she said, Adila, she was like, you have those? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I have all of that. I was like, back during the pandemic, I was like, God just started telling me to put all these credentials together, to start applying for these certifications. And I actually Brodie's Love was the first company to apply for the SOURCE program. So out of 1,400 companies, 255 businesses were chosen, and Brodie's Love was one of the businesses. Now, that did not guarantee that we got contracts for the NFL, but it was a segue. It was a door opening for us to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized. So that's how we started with the Super Bowl.
I think I got another good question to ask you too, but I think I was talking to a customer of ours. So we deal with a lot of manufacturers that are looking to repurpose or grow, especially with the tariffs hitting in full force. A lot of these suppliers are being hit with either car manufacturers not able to scale, or they have a lot of things that are affecting downwind, supplies. And so it was interesting because, to your point, he came to me and he was asking me a bunch of questions, and I was asking him exactly what you do. Right. So he's a Native American owned business. And I was like, okay, well, did you get your certifications? Did you get your set asides? He's like, no. And I think that it's one of those things that a failure to plan affects a lot more than just, success. And I think that, to your point, I go to a lot of these different suppliers. I work with a lot of different people, and I always tell them to get their documentation in order. So getting your codes, like you're saying with the government, going to your Apex, getting your cage code, getting everything in order, because I was always told that there's no luck, right? So you make your own opportunity. So being in the room and being prepared like that, I think goes miles. And also, to your point, knowing your capabilities for diversion. I think we had a really good conversation about people overextending during COVID and not really looking at the business risk. So not being prepared to extend their business, but at the same time, they would take on huge amount of work or expand product lines without asking, where am I going? And I think that opportunity without planning is equally as dangerous as no opportunity. I think
it is.
To kind of circle back, I know that we talked about your wine exporter. Can we talk a little bit more about how you selected them, why you thought, because I know they reached out to you, but I know you did a lot of diligence on why you liked them and that they're more of a partner than a supplier, like how they take the increase, I'm assuming, in orders. Like, how'd you go through that whole process with them?
Oh, of course. So when they reached out to us, Hamana, who was my production director then, I have a new one now, Rodrigo, because Hamana went back to the sales in Chile, which I love them. We have all become family. So when she reached out to us, at first I was saying before, and I'm going to say it here, I was like, we thought they were scam. We thought they were a scam. Because how did you, I'm like, how did you find us? Like a wine company, a Chilean wine company. I was like, so I started doing my due diligence and started asking, pertinent questions. So when we met on Zoom, I had asked him, I was like, well, are we a private label or are we going to be a black label? And so let me explain the difference. Private label is that me as a company, I just own the label on the bottle. I don't own the bottle itself. I don't own the contents inside the bottle. I don't own where the grapes come from, the lot. I just own the label itself. Black label is the opposite. We own the label, the designs, the bottle, the contents inside, wherever the grapes come from, that lot, we own that lot. And she said, okay, she was like, no, it's not a private label. It's a black label. You'll be able to come here to the vineyard. You'll be able to go back and forth with I have another Rodrigo, he's our winemaker. And she said, you'll be able to sit down with Rodrigo the winemaker, and go back and forth with like what you want, the notes, how you want your how do you want the the wine to taste, and then you'll have a design team about your with your label. So we have a creative director, and her team is here in the States, and we have a production design team in Chile. So being that we were so far away, we had to do everything on Zoom the first time around. So we did everything on Zoom. We chose them. Well, of course, I pray on everything. So I went into prayer. I mean, I some people don't believe, and it's okay, but this is what we do. Prayer is essential. Prayer is the foundation. God is the foundation of our business. So we prayed on everything, and that's how we chose them, and that's how we started the relationship, and then it went from there.
Well, I think to circle back too, I think I do like where you kind of ended up, because it is a lot of belief in what you're doing is right? There's only so many numbers or knobs you could turn before you just got to kind of make the leap. But I also like the idea that it's more than just a supplier, it's a partnership relationship. I think that there's a medical device company that we're working with now. So we help them choose local suppliers. So basically what we did was, they're not a huge order quantity. So they don't have, thousands of products that they're making every month. And a lot of it really came down to, how do we choose the right suppliers for them? So we spent a lot of time finding people that were more partners than suppliers. And they just had a little hiccup in their offshore line, and they were able to kick in with their local suppliers that otherwise weren't involved in those lines. And those guys really went to the nines to help them out and get them through. And I think that's what a good partnership is. And I think it also invokes a really good feeling. I always tell people that it should feel more like they're an employer, like they have been there for a long time. It shouldn't be so much of a forced relationship, because I feel a lot of people, to your point, when they think about scaling a global brand, they look at what the global leaders use, which isn't what's going to make you successful, right? Just because, topical to you, like if I use the same logistics company as Budweiser, that doesn't mean they have the same investment in me, as Hamana had in you when you were talking about the different things. I think the other thing that really struck me too when we talked is the amount of knowing what to ask before you engage. So when you engaged with them, you already knew the questions, you knew where to drive, and you did your homework. And I think a lot of people really look to offload that on the supplier. So a lot of people that we work with, instead of saying, hey, look, let's do a PFMEA. In our world, that's a product analysis to say, hey, we're producing this product. Instead of really sitting down and saying, hey, let's understand this process, where it can go wrong, and then go to the supplier, they kick it over to the supplier. And then when the supplier messes up, the supplier normally 9 times out of 10 goes, well, you didn't provide me enough information for me to get it right. And then you don't know enough, and you're just going, hey, I thought we were partners in this. And, it's two different worlds, right? Which I'm sure you do experience. Like, they are all about chasing a bottom line, where you as a small business are all about chasing value, right? So you kind of have two different goals, but at the same time, you got to work together.
Right. Because you always have to remember that this is your business. No one knows it better than you. Now, not to micromanage, not to take on every hat, not to do everything in your business, but you have to know and trust, of course, the people that are around you. Pick and choose your supplier carefully, not just because of their turnaround time or because their product is best, but like you said, like, do we fit? Because there were other companies that reached out to us, and I was like, no, because everything that's good is not always of God. All money is not good money. That's what we say in New York. All money is not good money. So you have to be careful about like who you pick and choose. And with our supplier and the supply chain, there were a lot of factors, right? Okay, are we going to mend and gel well?
Yep.
Do you see the vision that we see, right? Are you going to ask the necessary questions? Are you going to answer our questions? Are you going to follow through? What are the time frames? How can we get our wine from Chile to New Orleans without disrupting anything, right? And if there is a disruption, because we had one, and we talked about like our wine was damaged, right? How do you help us? How do we pick up the pieces from when something happens, from when turbulence happens, right? You have to vet the people that you're going to go into business with, not just because, they're a good name brand. They're one of the best name brands. You have to vet them, and you have to vet them well.
I think the other thing we discussed too is I think when we look at supply chain resilience, it's not just looking at one aspect. I think to your point, we had a long discussion about this the other day. I think a lot of people really just focus on one thing. So they say, this is the critical part of my business. Like for you, it would be wine, And I think a lot of people don't really look at it holistically. I think you made and I wanted to dive into this with you, a very good point about logistics too. So picking people around you that will also make that supplier successful, not just picking good supplier, because you could have a really good supplier, but crap logistics. So can you talk about a little bit of your experience with kind of looking at it overall? And I know you had a pretty good story about the logistics that happened to you in the past.
Oh, you're talking about with the damages.
Yep.
So, we obtained we have a warehouse here. We got the warehouse last year. And so we started out with 2 varieties, our Carmenere and our Sauvignon Blanc, that was in Georgia. And we sold out quickly. But then God told us to come back to New Orleans. So when we came back to New Orleans, I needed a warehouse because we needed to house more of our variety. So we have 7 varieties now. So we have a warehouse in Kenner, and we started going over the logistics of the time frame, and we chose our wine being shipped via cargo, and via cargo is actually on the water. We chose the boat because it is less expensive. The overhead for shipping it, in flight on a plane is astronomical. So we chose to do it by water. Our 7 varieties, we only had a half of container. So when you have a half a container, you have to find another company who is going in the same direction that you're going in, and you have to share that container. So our production team in Chile, they took care of all of that, because logistics in Chile is different from logistics in the United States. So you have to have people in wherever you are, if you're dealing with that country, to know how to handle the logistics, what company to use, how they're going to transport your wine from Chile to the port, to get on the port, from the port to wherever the next destination is. So when we did all of that, we had insurance, everything was covered. So when it came here to New Orleans, it was dropped off in one of the warehouses. So when it was dropped off in one of the warehouses, the people who were over the warehouse, and here comes the part where you need to understand, like with the logistics. Even though you may have all of your logistics planned out, you have everything in place, sometimes things happen, like this point. Our wine was sitting in the warehouse. We had our own trucking company. The warehouse, when the trucking company came, did not look at their sheet and did not look to see what company was supposed to pick up our wine. So they gave our wine to another company. And when they gave our wine to another company, and when it ended up back at our warehouse and the truck door was lifted, wine was just spilling out all over the place, because the company did not know how to transport wine, because they were not our company. So we had to, of course, stop everything, because when you have damages in especially in wine, and you have insurance, make sure you have insurance, a claim has to be put in. And when a claim is put in, all of your work has to stop. because they have to come out and they have to assess the damage. So you cannot, although we had contracts, thank God the Super Bowl didn't start yet. And we had contracts with other, we had contracts with other, and we didn't have contracts at that time with the Super Bowl. We were just in the program. So we had other contracts with hotels and restaurants, but they had to stop. We could not deliver. We had to wait for the assessment. We had to wait for the claims department to come out to see what was assessed, to see what was damaged, to see what can be salvaged, if any. So that was basically, that was a learning process for me. And I'm glad that we did have insurance on the Chilean side. But what I learned from it was not only to have the insurance from Chile, because what we learned is the claims department only gave us the money based upon what we, how much we paid in Chile, not how much we lost in the United States.
Yeah, the future, what is that? The future revenue loss. So future
revenue loss.
Which is huge to your point. Yeah.
Right. So this time we have insurance in Chile and we have insurance that covers everything in the United States, because we thought that and our production team in Chile thought that everything, and it was, but it wasn't covered for the future revenue. It was covered future revenue. So now we have everything covered for the future revenue. And I'm glad that happened, because it was a lesson for us. Like, everything is always a lesson for us. It's not, oh, what happened to us? It's always, what was the lesson for us? And that was the lesson. So we took that, sat down with my team, my distribution team, my sales team, and the team in Chile, and we regrouped. And now we have a new shipment coming, but now everything is covered.
Yeah, I think that's a story about continued evolution. I think a lot of people think when they make a product or bring a product to market, it's very much like, oh, that's the big hurdle. And I don't think a lot of people, to your point, really look at a continuous improvement approach on your whole system, right? So I think as a business owner, especially since most business owners are entering into a new endeavor without being in there, like, it's very rare that, like, you're coming from a company that does it and you're just doing the same thing but better, right? And I think a lot of business owners go through a massive learning curve, and some of the stuff you can't even predict. Like, we do a lot with glues, and one of the things is I'm no chemist, but glues, in the whole process, you have exposure times, like your handling times, all this stuff that could really factor into the spoilage before you even get to use it, right? And I guess that's where a solid partner that understands and that you've been with, because that also doesn't stop your supplier from delivering you bad wine, but because of your relationship with them and because they know it and they're experts in the field, they're able to guarantee that quality to you. I think the other thing I wanted to talk on too was kind of narrowing and understanding your niche. So you talked about how you picked your wines and you sold out of those wines and you kind of went. And we had talked about how sometimes people go too broadly. So can you kind of talk a little bit more about how you approach risk? So how you manage how much you order, how you kind of determine the stuff to not only mitigate the amount of inventory that you're holding, but also to guarantee that you're able to supply the people that you need.
Oh yeah, of course. So we started out retail. So when we first had the two varieties, the Carmenere and the Sauvignon Blanc, and we were in Georgia, we were dealing with business to customer. That's B2C. If ever someone sees B and then the number 2 and C, that's business to customer. When we sold out and we were in a meeting, I was in a meeting with my distribution director. I was like, I think that we need to, I was like, there are a lot of companies that are reaching out to us. And when you deal with retail, a lot is entailed with retail. It's dealing with a third-party shipping company. It's dealing with more insurance overhead because of the packages that you have to insure, and how much how much is the cost with that? So we switched from retail to wholesale. And just for us, it was the best thing that has ever happened to us, because with our inventory and with our overhead, we get and we have an inventory specialist. That's another thing. Find people that can fit in the lane that you are not well versed in. I know a lot of things, but when it comes to being an inventory strategist and spreadsheets and what's the bottom line, that's not my lane. So we hired Darlene Mitchell, who is phenomenal. And she sat down with us. She asked us what was our inventory, what do we have now, what was sold, what was damaged, what was our overhead, what was our operation cost. And she did it down to the penny. And that's another thing that you need to know. You need to know everything, like what you are purchasing, what your overhead is. Because if you do not know, like down, and I know it may be tedious in the beginning, but it will help you in the long run. Because if you are off just by $100 or $200, your whole inventory costs, like what you need, it's going to be off. So you need to know that. And the questions that she asked, they were very tedious, but it helped us because she was able to put everything in a spreadsheet. She was able to show us, like, okay, you have 7 varieties, but one is, you're only getting 5%. You're only making 5% off of that wine. So I suggest that you don't order that anymore. So one of our wines, which is the Winemaker's Blend, which is very good. It's our one of our top premium wines. What we noticed in this industry, a lot of wine drinkers, people who are wine connoisseurs, they don't like blends. Now, blends are very good, but they like just that grape. They don't like their red wines to be blended. So we removed that wine. We removed that wine, and so now we have 6 varieties. No, actually, we chose only 5 varieties because another wine, our Chardonnay, which is very good, but for this region, you also have to know what region you're in. The region that we're in and the people that we sell to, and that is the Southeast region. When I say the region, not only New Orleans, where we deal with everyone in the Southeast region. So that covers Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, every state that's in the Southeast region. We supply to them. So you have to know your inventory. You have to know what is selling, what isn't selling, so it won't sit.
I think to your point too, it's understanding. So I think a lot of people, to put this a different way, so we do a lot of PFMEAs, right? And in that, you're analyzing why something's going to fail in your supply chain, right? And I think a lot of people don't really look at, to your point, what matters to the brand in the supply chain. So I think it's an endless chase of often perfection, right? So it's this idea that I need a perfect item every time, or the same item, and I think, to your point, really understanding, and I think really understanding what the ROI is to your brand, understanding your brand really helps you in the supply chain, understand what decisions to make when. And I really like the point that you made about picking somebody that lifts you up in ways that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, right? So like having partners or having people in the business that could really carry you to places that you haven't been. And I think that all ties in that, because by you understanding the numbers, by understanding where things are coming from, you are very easily able to look at your brand, identify what value to you, and then make that pivot on the mixed wine to understand, okay, well, are we making money or not? And how is this going to affect it? And then from a larger perspective, adapt, because you're so in tune with it. And I think that a lot of people get lost in the minutia. Like when I talk to suppliers, they get lost in just producing the parts, not understanding what their customers want or care about, right? We worked with a supplier not too long ago who was making parts on a 5-axis CNC, and they weren't round, and the item was round, right? So it's like, well, that's a huge mess up. And yes, you could go back to the drawings and say, hey, look, this doesn't align, but to your point, that's not what the customer is selling. So not having that understanding meant the supplier was putting his customer at risk, but also the customer then had to go find other suppliers in order to fill that need, right? So they had to say, well, in our business, having this thing round is super important. So they had to find other people to enhance the supply chain, which then hurts the future business for both of them, right? So I think one of the pros about finding really good partners is that they help to understand what your ROI is and what your driving business is. To your point, to understand and make suggestions that help everybody in the long run.
Right. And then also, when businesses think about like inventory, don't just focus on like the quantity of it. You have to see, excuse me, you have to see what is working for you and who your customer mindset is. Because before we started with this wine, we went through a rigorous process. We found out, I'm sorry about the dinging, but I have to keep my phone on. I have to keep my phone on so we won't get cut off again.
Yeah.
And it's using my phone because I don't want us to. I don't want another blackout. So
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry about the dinging, but you also have to know like who your customer mindset is. And we went through this rigorous process during COVID. We used that time to find out about our business, to find out about our customer, to find out who our customer is and how we're going to target them. We didn't, during COVID, when everyone else was just like selling, we chose not to sell. We chose to sit and prepare and to pivot and to look at what was working and what wasn't working. And we used that time to put down like all of the information. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why we are still like standing after COVID. We're still standing after COVID because we use that time to put in the homework, like to do our homework and to do our research and to look at the inventory and to see like, okay, this is working, but this isn't working. Retail, we love it, but I think wholesale is better for us. And we used those 2.5 years before we came back in 2023 to focus on, okay, what is going to sell, what isn't selling. We don't need a lot of varieties of wine just to say, okay, well, we have this big portfolio. No, what does our customer want? What are they drinking? How are they drinking it? How are they finding out where to drink? Like what research are they doing? Not just us, but what research are they doing? Where are they going? What hotels do they go frequent? What is their median income? Are they empty nesters? Are they millennials? Are they professionals? And that's how we got to our inventory. That's how we got to what is selling and what isn't selling, because the customer the customer runs our company. If we don't have the customer, whether it be wholesale or retail, we don't have a business. You have to know who you are catering to in order to get to your inventory, in order to get to that bottom line. You have to know who your target audience is.
I think you made a lot of really good points in that material. Like that's super dense. And I think really what it comes down to is building resilience more than just your supply chain. So I think a lot of people are like, well, what's my fallback? How do I keep a large inventory? They look at it more of like, how do I stockpile things? I think to your point, like a lot of people I find are either in the just-in-time, so they're ordering barely enough to make deliveries, or they're ordering so much that now they're sitting on a ton, which we see after COVID, right? Like when I go to sanitization companies, you're seeing massive stockpiles that aren't selling, right? And I think to your point, it is understanding when to build resilience. And I think that I was always told the best time to focus on your business is when you don't need to focus on your business, right? Because that means things are going good and not to take it for granted. I think a lot of people during COVID you kind of went through a down spiral where people didn't know where, things were going, and then all of a sudden things started going good. So they started gobbling up. And rather than, to your point, my dad says, it's not about the doors you open, it's also about the doors you don't open, right? So I think a lot of people just were so focused on where the economy's going, the money, that they just started plowing it through. And I think we're seeing the results of a lot of that now, is people not to your point, understanding what's brand resilience. So how am I building a brand that is versatile and can adapt when I need to? How am I making sure that the vendors are able to adapt in ways that I may need to as a business? And then how can I adapt the brand to what my suppliers are? So to your point, what if they're not able to produce one particular grape because of a blight or something, and building something in that customers understand? I know a lot of businesses just started slapping recently tariffs. So they basically just said, look, you're paying more because of tariffs. But the big fear about it is that people flipping brands, right? So if you don't have that brand loyalty, or you haven't built that resilience with your customers, that they understand you're there for them and you're really focused on quality, then you're going to lose your customers really fast, which then affect, your supply chain. And then also, if you can't do your MOQs, like, it's a rolling effect. So to your point, it's understanding risk mitigation and scaling. And I think we had the other day a very long talk about COVID, about how many suppliers and how many manufacturers just went out and started just going crazy during COVID, especially in the sanitization area. It was like a war effort of remobilization of manufacturing. But then what they did was they overextended. A couple of weeks ago, I was touring Diamond Wipes, and they were very much talking about how they were able to buy up a lot of competitors now because they did exactly what you're saying. They didn't look at the risks of the business for the expansion. And because of that, it provided them an unfettered opportunity now to expand. But they're also very keenly aware of what killed their competitors to allow this. So.
And that's true. Well, before we, I know this has been so good, and I know that we have to wrap up in a little while. But to your point, especially with the tariffs, we had a conversation with our team in Chile, and they sent over the tariffs, how it was going to affect us. And I had to say, I was like, okay, well, what is the bottom line? What can we do? To make it so that it will be, so it won't hit our customers that hard. Like, how can we make this a win-win for everyone, And thank God, well, of course, the tariffs are on hold for 90 days, but our tariffs in Chile, our percentage didn't go up that much. So we only really went up $1, which was very good. But this has been so super great, Jeremy.
I will say one thing, and I know we're getting poked to go into questions, and to add on to that is that I think, to your point, a lot of people think in extremes too. Like, at no point during your process did I hear you say that you're going to abandon your winemaker or dramatically shift. I think, especially with the tariff talks now, people are thinking all or nothing. So it's all American, all offshore. And I think, to your point, it's a really, in the globalization, it's really thinking about balanced supply chain, right? So how do I mitigate on a more equitable scale, not necessarily just all in. But so I mean, we got to go to questions now. So.
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy. It was fun. And I can't wait to these questions. Yes. Here we go.